Welcome to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds for Plymouth County. This show is about Plymouth County real estate. Our headline for the month was Plymouth County real estate remains solid through 2025. I'm going to show you bar charts of deeds, mortgages, foreclosure issues. But overall, I'm going to tell you that in 2025, deeds exceeded 2024 by 1%. Mortgages in 25 exceeded mortgages by 14%. And overall, our documents were 6% higher than the year before. That's all positive. You're going to see a bar chart of deeds. We recorded 628 deeds in December, higher than the 599 in November, less higher than the 610 last year. Year-to-date in deeds, as I mentioned, we're up 1%. Our average sale price, which I'm going to talk a little bit about with our guest, Bill Keohan, a realtor, was $707,892. But I can tell you that we still see a lot of million-dollar homes coming in. And it makes it very difficult for people trying to get into the marketplace. Yeah, our mortgages recorded were 1,422, more than the 1,242 in November, 24% higher than last year's December, and year-to-date plus 12. Foreclosure deeds are down very low. Since the foreclosure crisis, and there was a moratorium in place for foreclosures, the numbers have been very low. Only 4 foreclosure deeds for the 27 communities in Plymouth County, same as in November, down 56% from last December and 33% for the year. And foreclosure notices are higher than foreclosure deeds. There are 32 foreclosure notices in December, less than the 51 in November, and down 17% year-to-date. You're also going to see a listing of foreclosure deeds and notices for all 27 of our communities. A lot of zeros there. Again, a lot of foreclosures are not moving forward. I want to just alert people again that we have a free property fraud alert opportunity. Go to PlymouthDeeds.org, go to our resources, sign up for it, and with your name and email, and if something is recorded against your name, you'll get a notification. Depending upon your name, if your name is John Smith, you'll get a whole bunch of notifications, but at least after the fact, you can take some action to try to solve your problem. And that's the best way to do it. Take a look at it from my perspective. We have a great guest coming on the next segment, Bill Keohan of Keller Williams Realty, and we'll see you in the next segment. Welcome back to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds, Plymouth County. In this segment of the show, we've had a variety of guests over the years, appraisers, surveyors, home builders, home inspectors, but the primary visitor has been a realtor, because realtors are the people on the ground who know what is happening in the real estate market. I have had this guest before in different capacities. He's worked as a volunteer for the town of Plymouth for many years, very active in the community preservation community, is currently a selectman. Bill Keohan of Keller Williams Realty is here today as a realtor.
Thank you, John.
Your full-time job.
Thank you, John. It's a pleasure. Thank you for, over the years, having me on your show.
Yeah.
And thank you for your commitment there at the Registry of Deeds of hearing from the people in the trenches. And that's, in my industry, we're wearing many hats these days.
Yeah.
And we're on the front line of this real estate affordability discussion. And we've obviously, some of the people I've worked with, whether it's been just a short time or many years, we're all kind of facing the same scenarios.
So congratulations to your 25th year as a realtor.
Thank you.
It's been a journey, hasn't it?
It has. It has. And it has, early on was really the go-go era of the early 2000s. It was kind of the roaring real estate markets that we had to navigate. But everything changed in 2007 and 8 with the housing correction that we all experienced.
Right.
It was quite painful.
Right.
It was an era that I was glad that I had some skills that I had gained over the years in terms of public service and working with families, because there was a real crisis out there. People were losing their homes.
Right.
And I had to work with them around the kitchen table in their homes and struggle through this very difficult time for individuals who are losing their homes.
Yeah, we were at the registry, we're very involved in with different groups.
Right.
And continue to follow foreclosure deeds
Right.
and foreclosure notices
Right.
in our report. And I hope we never get back to that situation.
It was-
so many people were underwater
Yeah.
at the time. It was
And,
terrible.
Yeah, there were the people that were underwater. That was a difficult thing, but there was the people that were losing their homes.
Yeah, right.
That they had these economic conditions where people were losing their jobs and they couldn't maintain that mortgage for a very short amount of time. It was they were going from 0 to 50, and you had to find ways of kind of navigating through that. But obviously, the early part of the 2000s was a time where people were escalating prices, but there was such a liberal environment in terms of borrowing that fueled this event. So we've learned a lot of lessons over those 25 years.
I hope so.
And we are into another phase of the real estate market where the affordability has come to a critical point.
Yeah, we came to an end of 2025. We were about 5,000 documents recorded, higher than 2024, but we're still in a relatively flat real estate environment.
Yeah, it is. I always, every day I get up as a realtor and I go on MLS and I check my numbers. There's a famous scene in Erin Brockovich, the movie. Erin Brockovich, she is talking to her neighbor who wants her phone number. And she says, "You want some numbers? I'll give you some numbers." And she rattles off all these numbers. I always got a kick out of that because she knew her bank account number. She knew all the numbers that she had to know. There was a lot of numbers going on.
Yeah.
But every day I want to get in there and check MLS and see what is available. The town that I live in, Plymouth.
Sure.
And I look at the inventory of active houses at 61 single-family homes. 61. That is an incredibly, interesting number because it has been stagnant for such a long time. Obviously, it's only January, and as we get into February, you're going to see the spring market kick in, and you're going to see that number go up. But if you look at all the houses on the market in Plymouth, single-family, duplexes, everything that's for sale, it's 196 units. So that's something to pay attention to. But then I always want to check with my county, my 26 towns around me. Obviously, realtors are not just focused on one town. They're working a region, and you have to do that in Plymouth for your client base. They're looking for regional, knowledge. And you look at Plymouth County. There's almost 486 units for sale right now, as of January 11th.
It doesn't seem that way.
Yeah.
It just seems like there's a very, very low, I suppose, comparatively, that's a very low inventory.
Yeah, and I'm talking about single family, duplexes,
Right.
multifamily, all the selection at 486.
Yeah.
But if you were to nail that down to just active listing, it drops down, like I showed you before with Plymouth, from 196 units down to 61 units.
Yeah.
So it's something to pay attention to, but there is some good news on the horizon. I think people are concerned with, as a realtor, you know why your clients are not listing, you know why your clients are not putting in offers, and interest rates have been something that people have been paying attention to. We're seeing them dip below 6% for the first time in a while.
I saw that yesterday.
Yeah, so we're looking at 5.9, maybe 5.8.
Yeah, with no points.
Yeah. So you see, that has a lot to do with some of the national discussions about, the bond market and what people plan to do in terms of buying back home security mortgages and things of that nature. We're seeing this take place on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, but it also affects Main Street here in Plymouth when you start to see those interest rates drop. The question is now, how are you explaining that to your clients to get ready for the spring market? Because I'm telling my clients that they should be prepared to get the house on the market. And if you are getting ready to buy, you need to do the same thing on the other end of the equation, because I do see that this market in the spring will be a little bit better than last year, a little bit healthier. With that news of that interest rate, I think that will be the boost that they need.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I did see that number. I think it was an ad in the Boston Globe, and that caught my attention.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we're going to have a dam break. I think it's going to be very gradual. How do you get people to move from their homes? And then people aren't even downsizing like they used to.
No. And, one of the things that are out there, the dam break, it's really the pent-up energy. Yeah. There are lots of people out there that I've been working with for a number of years telling me, I need to get the house on the market. Yeah. I need to downsize. I need to change the scenario in which I'm living in. Yeah. Whether you're younger or you're older, you're trying to make those normal movements in the real estate market that have been difficult over the last 10 years. So there's pent-up energy. But what I have noticed is when little windows open up, you'll see a little surge. Okay. So I'm hoping that this interest rate will be the catalyst to get individuals who have been thinking about selling, getting them in a position to put the house on the market. Because even if you have an interest rate that's 3 or 4 or 5%, and you're looking at 5.9 and 6, you can make the rationale that it's time to sell. I'm not going to be, in a difficult position on this borrowing process.
And the current homeowners have a little more of an idea that they can move and not be, thrown onto a higher mortgage rate.
Right. It's a manageable number in light of what that pent-up energy is experiencing. By the way, the agent's job now is to work with that family to sort out what is the pent-up energy. Right. Why haven't they listed the house? Right. And it comes down to, there's a lot of things that has to happen around the home to get it ready for the market in terms of getting your inspections done in advance, your Title V, your home inspections, and trying to sort out all the things that you should do to properly market the property, and then just the general upkeep of the home. I know that buyers do not want to be distracted by a lot of weekend projects. Mm-hmm. They want to kind of turnkey operation the best you can get to. So there's a lot sellers have to do to get the house on the market to get the price they're looking for.
And there's a relatively new law relative to home inspections?
Yes, the real estate agents need to declare this opportunity to their clients, and there is new paperwork that has to be filed with the agent, during that process. I think that during the go-go eras of 2020 and 1 and 2 and 3, there were people that were dropping that as waiving it, and I think the industry realizes that's something that we shouldn't. We should be very careful around that subject matter, because buyers obviously should know their rights and their opportunities to properly examine a property before they buy it. Mm-hmm. Yes, there's owner beware, but as a professional real estate agent, you want to be bringing that information to the forefront.
And it's putting a lot of onus on the realtors.
Correct.
About that.
Yeah.
Great. Have you had any experience in what Governor Healy has promoted the ADUs.
Yeah. Yeah, so interesting, Plymouth accepted ADUs, and they've been steadily growing. First just a dozen, then a couple of dozen, and now we're getting into there are permits that are going out, 40, 50 permits per year. So we expect that to grow, the ADUs, as long as they're the local initiatives in terms of the permitting process is respected, in making sure that the quiet enjoyment of the neighbors is not encroached on.
What we're talking about for the public is accessory dwelling units that someone can build if they have the right land with their house.
So the ADU does allow you to put an additional unit on your property if you comply with local zoning. You follow your local zoning, but there's this new initiative. It's working out in Plymouth, and I know the Commonwealth is pursuing it. And as long as you're following those zoning laws and respecting your neighbors in terms of their quiet enjoyment, the setbacks, the access, the parking, all of those things that if they're not paid attention to, they can change the dynamics of a neighborhood and change the value of real estate.
Right.
So we want to be very, very careful in a residential area where you're bringing on this level of intensity. You do it in a very responsible way, in a way that it respects the abutters and the other real estate around you.
Yeah, good point. Because I do think that a lot of the people in the neighborhood, when they first see one coming down, are concerned about the impact.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of neighborhoods struggle with parking, they struggle with traffic, and then you have municipalities struggling with bringing services. With more people comes a higher level of cost of services. So if you are doing something, you want to make sure that the municipality is not taking on more of a financial responsibility, because that takes the form of higher taxes. So we want to control the cost of services in a good way.
So with the people you are working for, hoping to get them ready to make a move between now and June, what kind of things are you telling them to do?
Well, we're pointing out the interest rate. We're pointing out that, with a lower inventory, the sellers do still stand in a very good position.
Right.
So that's an incentivization. But the other things that they struggle with is getting the services needed to get on the market. There's lots of inspections that you should be doing in advance of listing the property.
Okay.
There are lots of repairs that you might need to do. There's a lot of heavy staging. Not just moving the couch around, but actually doing some of the work that needs to happen, fixing, switching out appliances, maybe changing fixtures, painting. There's some heavy, there's some, I call it heavy staging. But you need help doing that. So one of the things that I do is I work with my clients, connecting them with services in that industry,
that's great.
So they can have confidence to move forward. From ordering the dumpster to clean out the garage to finding the painter to help you with the kitchen.
Yeah.
So I find myself wearing many hats, making these recommendations and finding these individuals to work with my clients.
That's a pretty broad approach.
So if you want the listing, if you want to get the house on the market, you'll do what you can to help your client achieve that goal.
Yeah, so it's positive for me that you see it gradually improving over the spring.
I do. I'm looking forward to the spring market, because there's things in it that make it different than the previous. But obviously, I go back to that earlier point in time in 2007 when things changed, and we've been kind of navigating through that for the last 10, 15 years. We've been kind of navigating this new reality of real estate, where you have these fits and starts and intensity, where it will be low, it will be quiet, and then there'll be an intensity there. So it's just after 25 years of navigating real estate, you think that you can bring some help to your clients, what they can expect, but also pay attention to zoning. I had a unique opportunity where I was able to serve on the Zoning Board of Appeals in Plymouth for a number of years, and serve on the Planning Board as an alternate. And I gained this knowledge of the zoning process, and people should be aware of how that process works in light of the governor's initiatives and some of the local initiatives. Right. This is a very important thing to keep an eye on, because you do want to create more units of housing, but you want to make the affordability the priority. And there's things that we can be doing to make housing more affordable. I had a unique opportunity to sit on a housing trust for the town of Plymouth now, and I've had opportunities to sit on other housing initiatives, affordable housing initiatives, from the task force to end homelessness to the Plymouth Housing Authority. And you learn a great deal over a period of time, because when you start talking about affordability, you're talking about a kaleidoscope of incomes of different individuals, from higher end to workforce housing to people in emergency housing needs. So there's a lot of different elements in the housing community that you have to pay attention to. It's just not one demographic. And that's something that in terms of town-to-town zoning and all the other conditions around it and public policy affects the affordability of housing. I think everybody should be focusing on finding ways of driving down the cost of housing. I knew that for many, many years there was an initiative in housing authorities to find the federal funding, to find the state funding, and to build the units of housing. And they did it very successfully in the 70s. As far back as the 50s and the 60s and 70s, and in the 80s it kind of changed about how we were going to build public housing. I think those policies have affected us where we are today, and we have to look back and see how we were more effective building public housing years ago. So there are things that we have done in the past that have worked, but there's things that in the past that maybe we need to try a different approach, and I think we're poised on that as we start to talk about affordability in housing.
So how do we deal with first-time home buyers? Clearly, that's a affordability and housing issue. Our average sale price across the county for the year 2025 was a little over $700,000, but many communities are selling properties higher than that.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of $1 million sales. I used to say, give me every $1 million sale. Now they're sometimes $2 million for properties.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I've spoken to you over the years about this process. We can see the number of units that are selling, but when you start to look at the average price in Plymouth County, it's $726,000. And then when you start to look over the number of units over $1 million, that number just keeps growing. So there's a very active market out there of high-end housing. The mid-end and the more the affordable units, they're not moving as much. They're not as available as much, and that brings you back to the first-time buyer struggling to get their foot in the door, literally, and the prices are so high. The opportunities for lending are difficult. What I could advise people to do is to pay attention to your local housing authority, looking for the programs that they offer to
down payment assistance, things
down
like
payment, but also look at your local community development office at your town hall. Get into community development and ask them, what initiatives that might be available for people to apply for, and then focus on your redevelopment authorities in your local towns, because in the redevelopment authority, they find funding and they work with community development to help train people for first-time buyer seminars. So there are programs out there for the first-time buyer, and it's about connecting to these governmental agencies, whether it's your local housing authority or your local community development office or your redevelopment authority. And then you might want to check with your local town hall to see what type of housing trust that your town might be managing. So there's housing trusts out there, and then there's also all sorts of groups that are working on housing initiatives, like Habitat for Humanity here in this region has been very successful working with lots of municipalities. Yes, they're bringing 1 unit, 2 units on at a time, but it does show a model which brings the community together, and by osmosis you educate people on how you build a community housing. So Habitat for Humanity is a very strong partner here with a lot of municipalities in southeastern Massachusetts.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I know that a group called NeighborWorks was very involved with us in the foreclosure process, but going forward they have a lot of programs of particular communities, down payment assistance and opportunities to help first-time home buyers.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. One of the things I recently learned by moving from a volunteer on committees and boards and sitting on a select board, is that how important it is that town halls are more user-friendly in terms of how the residents interact with their government, understanding how it works, what the different departments do, and how they can. The more the residents know about how their government works, and the more effectively they're engaging it. So I found that kind of to be a real experience on my end, seeing how important it is to have a local town hall that's user friendly.
Yes, I hope the normalcy of downsizing, upsizing, first-time home buyers have a chance at a house comes back in our marketplace.
Yeah. It's going to be, it's very desirable to live in southeast of Massachusetts. Yes. And this is what's causing, obviously, these higher prices. But to address the affordability question and bringing it back into focus, we're going to have a partnership between the local governments, the county governments, and the state governments working together, building initiatives to help people get their foot in the door on their first home, or helping a senior downsize out of a house that this is not the best place to be aging in place in. So there needs to be a greater level of interaction to help in that process, because right now where we are at is at a critical circumstance around this housing crisis, which in many ways is more of an affordability crisis than anything else. And there's things that we can be doing. A town like Plymouth just finished its comprehensive plan.
Okay.
And this comprehensive plan is, overall comprehensive plan is going to direct the town in terms of how it might be addressing its zoning issues, to allow for type of housing that might be able to be built with zoning accommodations and changes to make it more affordable for the average person. So that's another thing that municipalities need to focus on we're well into the 21st century now. As of January 1st, 2026, we're closer to the year 2050 than we are the year 2000.
Right.
So we're well into the 21st century. So we should be, towns should be updating their master plans, their comprehensive plans, their planning process, and start adjusting their zoning to accommodate this type of growth that's coming to southeast of Massachusetts. Right. Always keeping in mind the cost of services to the taxpayer, that if you are going to do a zoning change, make sure that you run the numbers and it financially is beneficial to the community. Right. It was a pleasure being on your show. It's always a great opportunity.
Yeah, no, thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations
Thank
for
you.
25 years.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the final segment of our show. It's a little lighter in nature. We talk about Plymouth County history, Plymouth Colony history. But I first want to thank Bill Keohan for the great job he did in describing the current marketplace and what we may be looking forward to in the spring. Congratulations again to Bill. 25 years as a realtor. A lot of people don't do 25 years in one profession. So let's go right to the holidays for the month. We had New Year's on the 1st, and a couple of the holidays that relate to our Plymouth Colony records. National Milk Day on the 11th, Martin Luther King Day on the 19th, and National Pie Day on the 23rd. First, there's a place in East Bridgewater and Bridgewater that was part of the path of the old Plymouth Colony. It's a skim milk bridge. It is built going over the skim milk river. Skim milk because it churns up and looks white like milk. And it was built as a dry stone constructed bridge. And it was a way to go from the Bridgewater area down to New Bedford and Taunton. It was discontinued, the street, in 1875, and it is now a preserved site and part of the National Wildlife Trail, the Hastiatos Mass Wildlife Trail. And there's a little parking area available on Scotland Street that you can walk over and take a look at it. It is part of the Bay Circuit Trail. Next one is also related to the Martin Luther King Day celebration. We had a group of African-American individuals who fought in the Civil War. They were granted land, 94 acres of land, on the Plymouth-Kingston town line. 4 Black Revolutionary War veterans, Cato Howe, Kwame Quash, Plato Turner, and P.S. Goodwin, and they established a settlement which remained occupied by their descendants until 1908. It's believed that all 4 soldiers were transported to the United States from Guinea, Africa, via Cape Verde, thus the name New Guinea Settlement at Parting Ways. If you drive on Route 80 in West Plymouth, you can visit that site. There's a parking area, a marble tablet memorializing the settlement and the graves of 4 African-American veterans in the foundations of the buildings there. It's listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and if you haven't stopped there, do so. We talked about National Pie Day. Closest I could come in our records was a cookie. Ruth Graves Wakefield, the inventor of the Toll House cookie. She was an owner of the Toll House Inn on Route 18 in Whitman, and it was a place that people stopped during their traveling days, but she was making cookies one day and ran out of her chocolate and started chopping up Nestle's chocolate and broke them up into small pieces and put them in her cookies, and the chocolate chip cookie was founded. It is designated as the official cookie of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. If you buy a Nestle's semi-sweet morsels package today, you'll find Mrs. Wakefield's recipe on the back. And as we've done since the Plymouth 400, we've talked about one of our Plymouth colony records. 1684, the court authorized that any tavern that sold liquor, either produced it or resold it, had to pay an excise tax of 6 pence a gallon and 12 pence in some cases and 6 in some. All that money went to the local governments, and the Plymouth colony government appointed individuals for each town. As an example, John Morton and William Harlow for the town of Plymouth, and they were the collectors of those fines, of those excise fees, and they collected them and forwarded them to the town for their revenue. I want to thank the local scene. This is my 184th show, and I want to thank all their staff over the years for what they've done in letting me share what for most people is their main resource and the ways in which you can protect your property. So thank you. We'll see you. Have a happy Martin Luther King Day. We'll see you in February.